Now, what's this? I have here a letter, ladies and gentlemen, from the Museum of the Jewish East End. It says a special exhibition in the history of Yiddish Theatre, etc., etc. The exhibition will document the history of this important, yet hitherto neglected, etc., etc. We feel that in view of the outstanding contribution which you have made to the theatre and your interest in your roots within Judaism, you would be an ideal person to open the exhibition. Well, like most of us in our early 40s, my experience of Yiddish theatre was the occasional visit in one's youth with parents whispering instant translation into puzzled youthful ear. This is not a dead exhibition of past glories. It is a stimulus to enduring respect for the ethnic power of a people, whether they speak English or Yiddish. And whatever all that means, I declare this exhibition, this inspiration, open at last.
What is happening now should have happened many, many years ago, so that we might still have had a Yiddish theatre today, where a bypasser could point his finger and say, this is the Yiddish theatre. But what we have instead are three nomads wandering the deserts of London and the provinces and holding on by the skin of our teeth to keep the Yiddish theatre in London alive.
Wenn jeder Jede sein, was ich hab aller Fuß. Wir werden danken, euch unser Gott. Wir werden solche sein, zu senken das große Krieg. Ich hab des Mannes, bin Schwester, Brüder, wenn sich hinkehren, kein Israel zurück.
Where else could we start but Romania? My birthplace and the birthplace of the Yiddish theatre, as it is known. I started acting at the age of 2.5. My father, who was an established actor then, took me on, and I stopped the show.
I was born in Lodz, Poland, a child of a theatrical family, and I started acting when I was a child of 7. I had terrible dramatic scenes, and I must have done it very well because I cornered the market for child parts.
I was born into a family that was not associated with the theatre at all, in a professional sense, but my father was a great devotee of the Yiddish theatre, a great lover of Yiddish. Yiddish is often dismissed as not being a, quotes, proper language, unquotes, without a grammar, etc. Well, that is not true. There is a very strict grammar and a very difficult one. It's an itinerant language, really, and it has picked up so many words from various parts of the world. But if you have a good knowledge of German, you can, I think, understand Yiddish fairly well. And when I was 8 years old, I was a chorister at the local synagogue, and a play was being presented in Manchester, and they required a number of boys to be in the chorus for the opening scene. I was one of the chosen few.
I played little girls and little boys, then I graduated, and at the age of 15, I played soubrettes and also played grandmothers with grey wigs and makeup on my face. I arrived in England the first time in 1933. In London, at that time, there were 2 Yiddish theatres. There was the Pavilion Theatre, of course. Then there was the Grand Palais Theatre, and in 1936, the New Yiddish Theatre in Adler Street.
And then came the big chance. After working a season with then the great comedy star of the Yiddish stage, Benzion Wittler, we became great friends, and he was offered to come for a season to the Grand Palais in London, and he recommended me for the company as a juvenile light comedian. I was in 7th heaven. I was delighted. I thought, this is my career's beginning now. And I was ready. I made myself ready to go and collect my Polish passport and the visa to travel to England. And this was exactly on the 1st of September, 1939. And my dream was shattered. This was the outbreak of the war, and I did not go to England. I was stuck in Poland in this terrible war I was under the German occupation because on the 6th day of the war, the German army was in Lodz in my hometown. My father, by then, was an old man, an invalid, but on the advice of my mother, she said, you must save your life. Perhaps you'll be able to help us.
But the war didn't stop us performing Yiddish theatre. In 1944, at the Grand Palais, when we put on The King of Lampedusa, based on the actual exploits of a British pilot, it was the longest-running success in the history of the Yiddish theatre in London. Later, in 1946, I played Portia to my father's Shylock in The Merchant of Venice.
When I was 19, I was called up for military service, which I served on the continent of France, Belgium, Holland, Germany. And on demobilisation, I returned to Manchester, but some strange force seemed to direct me to London, and I came to live in London. And before very long, I was able to pick up the threads, and by late 48, I had made my debut at the Grand Palais, playing walk-ons and juveniles, and graduated to juvenile lead.
I found out that my whole family perished in Auschwitz in 1942. And I was left all alone. So nothing else for me to do in Poland anymore. And some other actors in the same situation decided to leave Poland and to seek a new life, a new world. Everybody wanted to go somewhere. And the offer came from England, from Mark Markov and Etta Toppel, who were the leading actors then in the Grand Palais, Yiddish Theatre. And they offered us to come to London for a season of Yiddish Theatre, and we were delighted because this was a new hope in 1947.
For a few more years, things continued to go well for us, and we still had great hopes for the future. But it slowly became apparent that the Yiddish theatre was running into problems. In the 50s, the decline set in. The only Yiddish theatre after the Adler Hall closed its doors was the Grand Palais. And the actors were struggling. They were holding on by the skin of their teeth to make ends meet.
The Jewish population moved out of the East End of London. The people who still lived here became older and died. We kept on losing our Yiddish-speaking audiences, and it was difficult to exist, and we started to perform only weekends. And the Grand Palais eventually became a bingo hall, and we performed only one-night stands all over London and the provinces as well.
What do you do now? A company of Yiddish actors and no theatre. A particular society approached me and put this proposition to me. How about bringing the company to our synagogue hall and putting on your Yiddish play there for us? How about going to the people? Instead of the people coming to us, we will bring the theatre to them. We will do it now at the end of the Yiddish Theatre in London. It's true that at the time when the theatre closed, there were 10 of us. Now there are 3 of us. We do sketches, we do monologues, we do songs, we do bits of the classics, whatever is possible. The music is supplied by our 2 musicians, who are Phil, my husband, on violin, and my daughter Ricky on piano, which brings it up to 5, the entire company. My little kitchen is our production office. Now then, next on the agenda, I think I'll tell you about this letter I received from the Beaumont Hall people.
Oh, yes.
As usual, they want us to come and do a show.
Oh, yeah.
For their people there, and it is the 13th of next month. that okay with you?
That's fine,
You haven't booked your
yes.
holidays
Oh,
yet?
no, no, no.
And you have?
Oh, it's all right
Okay,
with me.
good, so I'll answer them.
Tell me, have
Fine.
you seen the venue lately?
Well, I haven't been there recently, but when I spoke to them on the telephone, they said everything's fine, the piano has been tuned, and but the curtains.
What?
They've taken them off and they've sent them to the cleaners, which is marvelous because, as you
Yes,
remember, they were
yes.
filthy. But there's a problem. They may not be back in time.
Oh, my God.
So I said, well, what are we going to do? They said, don't worry. If the curtains are not back in time, we shall put on some other drapes, which we have here, which will be okay. Not to
Oh,
worry
thank God
about
for that. As long as we don't play against the blank wall.
Well, experience has taught me that as far as the Bowman Hall is concerned, it's a question of wait and see, because you know the conditions there are very primitive and the dressing room is very Spartan indeed. But
In the beginning, it was very strange because the venues, some of the venues were synagogue halls without proper lighting, and I had to think of that. What can we do? But to buy real spotlights and the real thing is very expensive. And as I'm a do-it-yourself man myself, and I did a sort of portable footlights, which we use up till today. The light comes from below and we all look like in a Hammer horror movie. But it's better than nothing, otherwise we would have to perform in the dark.
I live in a flat. Above my wardrobe, underneath the bed, in the cupboards, in my lady's chamber. We keep our props, we keep our costumes. Of course, there's no question of hiring because that costs money. We make them. We do everything we can.
Of course, the work is very hard. We have to do the makeup at home, go into the car and go to wherever they engaged us to perform.
Right, here we are. Thanks.
Thank you.
Let's do your Charlotte costume next.
Oh, yes.
I put my Sunday tie in. And that's it.
That's it?
That's the lot, I think, yes. Hello, Phil. Here we are.
Hello, Phil.
Right, give me the fiddle and I'll...
Right. Yes, the lights. Ooh, careful.
Yeah. They don't bounce. The Yiddish Theatre is a very specific folk art which appeals only to the Yiddish public. It has a specific meaning to the Jew as a Jew. Because of the language makes it rather special. I find that when an audience file into the theatre, whether the presentation we're giving is going to be of one of our best or not, we are halfway there before the curtain goes up because they've come along to hear Yiddish, the language of their parents, of their grandparents, and to associate themselves with the past.
All right, you fix the lights?
Yes, the lights are.
Good, good. Some here. Do you know to have something in the
We
back?
can
We
pass
can
it back,
pass
so
by.
we can use both
Wonderful.
entrances.
Wonderful.
Perfect.
It stinks. We'll have to leave the curtains open, in which case we can't adjust them now.
We give them an evening's entertainment. The first half is usually a playlet, which I write for the three of us, a nostalgic thing to remind us how it was, how a Yiddish performance looked in the past. We do it tongue-in-cheek, but it's still very amusing and nostalgic for the audience.
Wenn jeder sein, was
We do have many problems, of course. I myself, for example, am forced to play roles which are totally unsuitable for my age. That is why we cannot produce full-length plays, because neither I nor, with respect, my colleagues are of the right age to portray the characters that we would have to play in a full-length play.
Molly is an interfering customer who is trying to persuade Mr. Hirschman, the owner of a shoe shop, to let his daughter marry his apprentice. But Mr. Hirschman is not very happy about this idea.
Mr. Hirschman, verwus willt ihr nicht sie lassen, als eure Tochter dwoire soll Chassene haben?
Mind your own business.
A family atmosphere would pervade the Yiddish theatre, not only as far as the audience were concerned, and their relationship with the actors, but also among the actors, because we had all worked together, grown up together, grown old together.
Scha, reg doch nicht auf, schreit nicht, koch doch nicht. It's no good for your blood pressure.
Although Yiddish theatre companies were known as one big happy family, I assure you it wasn't always so. Each actor, of course, had his own little repertoire at home in his own trunk. So out came a play that one actor brought on the Monday morning. He read it. Right away, this one isn't happy because he's... Ich will nicht spielen die verstinkende Rolle. Warum sollst du nicht spielen die verstinkende Rolle? Translated, it means, why should I play this stinking role? Why don't you play it? Or one actor would say, my wife is younger than yours. Why does your wife play the lead? Why should my wife should play the lead? Or things to that effect. And of course, one word leads to another, and abuse and insults. No fisticuffs, but banging on the table. And of course, that play was taken back. On the Tuesday, another actor brought a play, read it again. Nobody was happy. Nobody ever was happy. By Wednesday, with a little luck, a play was agreed upon, and they started rehearsals. That was Wednesday. Saturday night, grand premiere, the opening of a new play. So, my dear, of course, we needed a prompter, not just to prompt a word here and there, but the play was literally spoken twice nightly by the prompter first and by the actor second.
Das ist Motto. Das ist alles sein Schuld. Ich will sich bald nehmen zu ihm. Ich will ihn bald machen Schwarzschabes. Motto, daher geht. Jemand nicht, komm mal rein her.
Ich schon wieder, was willst du für mein Leben?
Mottele Dratwe, wo's her?
You know, when we first started, I brought old curtains of mine to the hall. We lashed 3 chairs together with some rope, and I covered them with my curtains to make it resemble a sofa. And when we complained to the society and said, how about bringing some furniture to dress the stage for us? They said, don't worry. They don't come to see the furniture. They come to see you and to hear a Yiddish Wort and a Yiddish song and a Yiddish joke.
Die Narrigkeit, die Räucher rausschlugen vom Kopf.
Bochum, stell nicht
Balabus, mir dachtest doch, als macht ein Mistake. Nicht ich schäppe sich Zeit Woire, nicht ich spiel Lupkes mit dir. Aber eins kann ich auch ja suchen. Tomer riete mich mit dem Passig, weil ich sich zu ihr Ziel schäppen, als keiner wird mich nicht können uppreisen von ihr. Ich will kleben zu ihr, der Stück Smolle.
Die Smolle!
Wo sind das falsche Theorie? Ich hab Kasse mit einer Tochter und ich gehe weg von euch und öffne ein Business für sich. Und ob es gefällt euch nicht, könnt ihr noch nicht tanzen bei mir auf der Kasse.
Oh, ich will mein Autos rein.
We do our own costumes. I have to do my own as well. Well, I'm used to that because in the past I learned that in my youth how to do it. And for example, if I perform my scene from The Merchant of Venice, Shylock, I did the costume myself, and I do everything necessary, and you see a professional production.
The Yiddish Theatre had a dual purpose when it was established in London, because most of the audience, most members of the audience, my father included, could not read English, did not attend the English theatre, and were therefore unaware of world literature. But the translations into Yiddish made the audience, including my late father, aware of Shakespeare, Ibsen, Tolstoy, Dumas, Gogol, Strindberg, you name them and they're all there.
Signor Antonio, vielmalen oft auf der Börse hat ihr vorgeworfen mir wegen mein Geld und wie so ich nütze es. Doch ausgestanden und gelitten hab ich in der Still, weil Leiden und Schweigen ist der Symbol für mein Volk. Ihr rieft mich Ungläubiger, halsschneidender Hint und speit auf mein jüdischer Kapotte. Und als vernitzen dus, was es ist mein Eigentum.
People are often surprised that Jewish actors should choose to play the merchant because they think it's an anti-Semitic play with Shylock as the villain. But we see Shylock as the victim of anti-Semitism. You know, when my father, Mayor Tzelniker, played Shylock, one theater critic said he was the only honest man in the place.
Hat jüdisch kein Augen? Hat jüdisch kein Hand? Glieder, Gefühlen, Leidenschaften, gesättigt mit derselben Speis, verwundet mit derselben Waffen, empfindlich zu derselben Krankheiten, geheilt mit derselben Mitteln, gewarmt in Gefreuren durch denselben Winter in Zimmer, wo es Christ. Als ihr stecht uns, vergießen wir kein Blit. Als ihr kitzelt uns, lachen wir nicht. Als ihr versammt uns, starben wir denn nicht. Und wenn ihr titten schlecht, sollen wir nicht kommen nehmen? Ob wir seien in allem als wir, wenn wir sein als wir euch in dem. Wenn Jid schlecht sind Christ, wo ist ein Entfer? Ne, komme! Und wenn der Christ hat schlechts getan dem Jid, wo es darf sein Entfer sein, Leute euer christlichen Beispiel?
Of course, I have to compromise. I have to scale down the show. We haven't got the cast, we haven't got the production. Of course, we would like to give them a lavish production, a great cast, but it's no longer available. It's only the three of us. This will be a painting of Mirale Efros, Jacob Gordon's classic play. Mirale, in the first act, in her happier moments, at her elder son's wedding. Little does she know what's in store for her after the wedding. The struggle for power between her and her future daughter-in-law, the struggle with her sons. They want to take over the business. They want the legacy that is left for them from their father. And Mirale is forced to reveal the secret which she kept from them for all these years.
Wissen, wusste es sei geblieben von euer Futters Familie, ha? Vielleicht weißen die Bücher, weil kein Mensch in der Welt äußer Schaumen weiß nicht von dem Sod. Euer Futter ist gestorben von Jesirem in Schande, weil hat gemisst bankrottieren. Ja, bankrottieren. 60.000 Rubel ist schuldig geblieben, wenn ist gestorben. Und das ist euer Gerische. In dem kennt ihr sich zu teilen. Ich bin nicht geschlafen genacht. Hingesehen sein Nummern zerraten. A Rubel für a Rubel hab ich abgezahlt. In der Fahre sitzt mein Kredit unbegrenzt.
In the Yiddish theatre, we would certainly try to keep away from politics as a main theme. We would use family themes. Apart from the ordinary boy meets girl, and boy loses girl, and boy gets girl with the musical comedies, in the classics, for example, Jacob Gordin would write about the difficulty of immigrants settling in a new country, how perhaps the husband would settle more quickly and the wife couldn't come to terms with life. You would also have the eternal problem of the generation gap, how children could not agree with their parents, and you would have ungrateful children.
Das Wasser ist schon über den Hals. Über den Hals.
audience is going to be composed, I think, mainly of the local elderly residents. I'm going to throw in Rozhikas and mandolin as a bonus, because they love to sing along.
You always do it.
Yes, I know. Well, I think you'll find that many items are performed continuously because the audience love to hear them. You'll find that lots of singers do the same encore. I'll do it as an encore, usually, so that will justify it. But I think you'll find they'll all sing along and they'll enjoy it.
He's quite right. I found that the older the song, the better. They know it and they love to sing
Absolutely.
with you. Am I right?
I think we'll take a chance on that.
Yes, definitely.
In den Beis Hamikdosh, in a Winkelcheder, sitzt die Arune, Bastion allein. Ihr ben Juchat Oidele, wiegt sie Keseder. Sie wiegt immer Liedale,
We do get a good number of younger people now because there is a great surge now with people looking for their roots, wanting to go into their ancestry, whereas before people were inclined to say, well, no, I didn't come from the continent, or my parents didn't come from the continent. I'm first, second, and third generation English, but that idea seems to have gone out of the window now. The opposite is very much the case. People are proud of their roots and want to seek them out.
Das wird sein dein Beruf.
Each time when we play a season, we think, well, perhaps this is the end. But no, a new season comes along and various charitable organizations and fundraising societies approach us and say, well, come along and do your thing.
As long as God will give us health and strength and our legs will carry us, we will carry on giving a Yiddish performance wherever, whenever, here, there, and everywhere.
As long as people will want to hear a Yiddish word, a Yiddish song, we'll bring it to them. So the Yiddish classics and the Yiddish playwrights and lyricists and composers shouldn't be forgotten, and future generations should remember.
Mit